I was recently doing some work for a NGO here in Wellington who is really trying to embrace te reo and te ao Māori in their whole way of doing things. Really put me to shame, actually, in my lack of te reo. And I had that, like you're saying, the shame and the fear of making mistakes, whereas everyone else could, do their mihi and te reo and stuff. And I was too nervous to do it. But it was interesting to see how they're working in te reo words into their communications to their members and on their website and things like that. And I wonder how you feel about that. I guess not hybridization, but the use of Māori words into English in New Zealand. Like I noticed, like Pat, starts to say mahi, and that those words are more words are coming into New Zealand English from Māori, and I wonder how you feel about that.
Oh, look, I love it. It's all part of the normalization of the language. I was talking with Dame Heniwehi Mohi the other day, and she says, "Hey, bro, it's Māori music that keeps topping the charts in New Zealand now. Everybody wants to do songs in Māori, right?" And when I was with a band called Aotearoa back in the 1980s, trying to compete with Madonna and everybody else, right? We were radicals, and but now it's something that people love to do. But I think this whole thing, the New Zealand vernacular, right, including Māori words, is for me, it's all part of the normalization process. Māori, the music that Heniwehi and her organisation are putting together, that's another part of it. And music, Bob Marley said, one thing about the music, when it hits you, feel no pain, right? So it's a perfect way to normalise the language. But also using words like mahi and puku and kai, when we speak in English, we used to call it makeha, right? Māori Pākehā, makeha.
That's a T-shirt. That's a T-shirt.
There you go, makeha, right? And I used to think to myself, come on, learn the language, you lazy buggers, right? But the more that I've been in this role and the more that I've looked at the evidence, people have to start somewhere. And look, bro, you're right to be nervous about doing a mihi, right? Because, we've had to really push the message of manaakitanga, kindness and care to learners, because, mate, you got no learners, you got no language. It's as simple as that. And look, if they turn up and you're mean to them, nobody goes back to somebody's house who's mean, Go there and they start yelling at you, give you a hiding or whatever and send you home. You're not going back there. And yet we would do that to learners, right? I mean, there used to be a time when my organisation, if you dared mispronounce a word on TV, they'd take you to the cleaners, right? And we've learned over the years that if you take people to the cleaners and the press, they're not likely to be your friend, right? So I don't know if you guys remember back in probably about 2017, 18, when a story broke about Radio Hauraki.
Yeah, the name.
These two older DJs, right? You remember that?
Yeah.
And look, and my comms person had the pen poised, had the PR all written, and was going to send it out. And I said to her, hold on, I'll give Dean Buchanan a ring and just see what's going on. And so I rung Dean, and he says, nah, that's BS. Those two older DJs shouldn't have said that. There's no official pronunciation. And we've got Scotty and Stacey in helping us out with te reo. So we came up with this idea to launch the official pronunciation of Radio Hauraki, right? And we did that a few months later. But we also gained some new friends, right? And in this kind of, and I won't call it a war or even a struggle, What in this thing that we're doing in this movement, it's really about bringing more people in, but it is a movement that is accepting of difference. I mean, one of the things in the Tiki, for instance, when we developed that, we went to Varian again in 2017 and said, can you run some online focus groups? Because, when you have in-person focus groups, you get a smart ass like me, dominating the kōrero, and that's, and all the data is kind of dodgy, right? But online, people are really, really honest. As you guys have both probably found out. And so for me, when the themes came back, there were three of them. One was that the brand had to be distinctively Māori. The second one was that it had to be contemporary, so you couldn't have something frighteningly traditional that people couldn't, relate to.
Yeah.
But the third thing and most important thing was inclusion. And those rainbow tongues are there for a reason. Look, and if a certain church starts painting them out, then we'll know why, right? But for me, that is the strength of that brand. It's what softens it. It's, it says to all our rainbow kids, hey man, Te Reo Māori's for you. And, the brand recognition now is through the roof, and we're really, really happy. But, once again, people have something to identify with Te Reo Māori, and the public appetite. I mean, we've been selling the merchandise through the warehouse for 2 years now, and we did that because the warehouse is a New Zealand business, and secondly, because they can sell them at an affordable price, whereas I think we were getting up there in terms of how much it was costing us to buy them and give them away. And the best thing is we get a royalty back for it, but it's not a lot, but it's enough to, to keep an FTE or two going. But look, all of the stuff is about bringing people in and making them feel safe to learn. And also talking to teachers and saying, you need to realize that people from all sorts of backgrounds are coming in here. Some of them, I think I've spoken to about 4 or 5 non-binary people who get really upset because they don't want she or he, they want they. And I think to myself, wow, the pronouns in Māori are pretty limited, right? I mean, ia for it, him or her or they, So, I can't understand what the problem is. But for me, those people feel uncomfortable because who they are is not being accepted. And it needs to be accepted. It's not being woke. It's about respecting people. So, yeah, trying to get that across and, saying to teachers, you need to understand who your learners are and really, really factor that into your teaching and make them feel safe to be in your class. And it's been one of the big messages we've had to push out to more proficient speakers of the language too. With my own partner, for instance, she's been learning since she was 17. Early on in our relationship, she'd say something like, "Oh, kei te haere au ki te toa, ki te hokona, he kai." And I'd turn into, Mr. Professor and say, well, my darling, you can't pacify a verb in a secondary clause like that. And all I could see written all over her face was, oh, piss off, And so I learned to find ways to support her that didn't annoy her, right? And didn't take away her mana. And these are the things I think that have been taken on by a lot of people who would say, oh, the reason you can't speak Māori is because you're lazy. Well, actually, no, bro. The reason just about the whole country couldn't speak Māori was because the government banned it from the classroom. It was government policy. It was not about being lazy. And if you spoke it at school, you got a hiding.